Hey everyone, how you doing? Tundra Super Late Model Series getting even closer now to Great Lakes testing round one at Wisconsin International Raceway coming up on May 14th. And a guy I think is going to play a factor in that race in an entire 2022 Tundra Super Late Model season is Justin Mondeik, and he joins us here today for this Tundra Talk. Justin, great to have you. How's your off season been? And I know your off season was quite a bit shorter than everyone else's, having raced in Florida already.
Yeah, it's always nice to get out of the Wisconsin weather and get down there and try to do a little bit of testing. But it definitely, it creates a much shorter off season for our team compared to other teams around the area. But I feel like that helps us keep our edge throughout the year and prepares us for once we get back racing up north.
It was a pretty successful go down there at Speed Weeks for you this year. You had the third place finish. You had some really nice qualifying efforts. All in all, you pretty happy with what you guys did when you were down there for Speed Weeks?
I mean, we were and we weren't. I guess it's definitely the best we've ran down there. It's our third year in a row that we've been down there, and we finished fourth in points this year. So points overall, we finished the best we ever have there. I feel like it was, one of the tougher years with the competition level this year. Struggled in qualifying a few of the nights, and down there, really, if you don't qualify good and you don't hit the invert, it's extremely tough to pass there, especially in the 35 lap races. It seems like wherever you start really plays a big factor. And after about 15, 20 laps, everybody's running the same speed. So that's challenging. The night that we placed third, I think we started like fourth, so we were able to start up front. The other nights we were starting eighth to 10th, and we were able to drive up to fourth or fifth, but you run out of time. So overall it was a good week. I felt like we learned a few things to bring back up north, and didn't have to unload a second car, and our primary car stayed in one piece, so that's always a bonus.
One thing I've always noticed about New Smyrna is it seems like it's kind of a mix of a few different tracks up here. You have the really big high bank turns like Slinger, and then you have the long straightaways kind of like Akana and Madison. What's it like to attack that place? I know you said, it's been your third year coming back, but with all of your experience up here in Wisconsin, are you able to bring anything down there, or is it just a completely different animal when you go and race at New Smyrna?
It's similar in a couple ways. Like the most common track I would compare it to up here would be Madison. Long straightaways, tight corners, extremely line sensitive. I always have Mike Herman spot for me down there. He's a huge asset to our team just with driver coaching and lines. But it's extremely line sensitive. Our setup stuff that we bring down there, we try to bring down compared to tracks up here, and it works to a point, but it doesn't at the same time. So that can be a little bit frustrating. I think difference in tire compound plays into it, but definitely throw a lot of stuff at it, and some of the stuff sticks and some of it doesn't. But we try to learn as much as what we can, and it's always a fun week and a half to go down to get away from Wisconsin for a little bit.
When you go down there, do they ask you about everything that you've been doing up here over the last couple of years? The two championships at Golden Sands, at Wausau, all the ones at Norway, all the feature wins. Obviously, you carry a pretty impressive resume down there. Do people come by and ask you about that? Are they aware of that? Or are you just kind of another face in the crowd there? And how do you stand out if you are?
I think that's been the biggest difference these last few years that we've been finding more and more success these last 2-3 years is you're becoming a lot more notable in the super late model world, which is always encouraging for our team. Definitely, when you're down there, the William Byrons that come in and some of the bigger stars, that gets most of the publicity and attention. But with as much as what we've been gaining the last few years, you definitely get a lot more fans that come up to you and want to get pictures or hero cards. So that's always nice to see that you get a little bit more of a national following, and we definitely have a lot longer ways to go in that aspect, and that's what we're working towards.
So let's talk about the last 2 years then. Tundra specifically, you picked up the 2 wins in 2020. which were your first two. It just dominated at your home track of Wausau and then again at Plover. And then this year, you had some really strong runs, but just a couple of unfortunate, steps along the way. The DNF at Kakana was obviously one that bit you pretty hard. The tangles at Jefferson toward the end of that race. Are you feeling pretty good about where you've been in the Tundra Series the last couple of years? Do you feel like maybe you've left a little something on the table that you want to pick up here for 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough. I love the series, and I hate it at the same time for that reason. Just because you have one hiccup in a 6-race series, it's dang near impossible to come back from that. Especially this year with Wausau being canceled, we only had 5. So started out the year at Kakana, I felt like we had one of the best cars we've ever had there. We've been getting a lot better there the last few years, and mechanical failure, finished dead last. So that was tough. And then, we get into Jefferson having a really good car. And I think we would at least been a second place car that day, and late race contact took us right out of it. So that screwed us there. And then I think we go into Marshfield, had a really good car, and just really got outclassed that day. We had a really good car, I felt like, but Riley was definitely on rails that day. So that was a tough one for us. And then getting beat by Jordan at Plover. That was another tough one, but I feel like we've been gaining, these last few years, and especially this year with the schedule. I really feel like it fits our team well, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know you were quizzing me throughout the off season about the schedule, and we settled on going to Norway. I shouldn't say we settled. We've been looking to get back there for a little while. It's a really fun place. And I know that you have a lot of firsthand experience there, winning that state line challenge last year. How excited were you to find out that Norway did make it for the 2022 schedule?
Yeah, it was extremely encouraging and exciting. Like I said, we've been back-to-back state line challenge winners there the last 2 years, and we got over 10 feature wins there in the last 2 years. And it's always a really good race between Dalton and I and others that race there. But like I said, it's encouraging, and it's exciting. I feel like, we have an extremely good baseline from there. There's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be coming in that might compare it to some other tracks. And we run setups that are similar to other tracks, but everybody's like, oh, well, you can run this if it's similar to Wausau or Plover. Well, it's like, you really can't. The more tracks we go to and the more races that we're able to run, we find that you can't run the same stuff everywhere as much as what people would hope. But like I said, we got a good baseline, and I'm really excited to get there. But like I said, anything can happen. We're gonna have a big field. I'm sure qualifying is gonna be tough. We should qualify good, but with the inverts, I mean, it doesn't matter. You're gonna have lap traffic and big car count. Who knows what the invert's gonna be with where we qualify. So like I said, there's always unknown factors, but it's definitely one we have circled on our schedule.
Norway is such a tricky place because, you've seen a lot of success at the smaller tracks like Wausau and Golden Sands, those momentum tracks, those places where, it really takes being finesse on the throttle and being smart about where you're positioning your car at all times. Norway, to me, it is all of that, but it's also just tricky because, you straddle those rumble strips on the front stretch. Turns 3 and 4 seem like they're like a double apex. Like, you go into 3, you're turning, and then you got to cut again to come out of 4. What was your thought the first time you ever went to Norway? Did it just seem like such an odd place that you really couldn't have any idea of how to attack it until you actually got out there?
Yeah, I think the hard part is, like I said, on the front stretch, you have the rumble strips, and down the back stretch, you have the gravel. On the outside, there's no walls until you get a couple feet off. So yeah, I think each corner is so different. And I remember one of the first times we were there, I go out there, and like, you could tell like the times are slow, that it's a slower track just with it being flat, no banking, but like the car felt like really, really good. And we come in, I'm like, well, how is it? It feels pretty good. And we're like 4 or 5 tenths off the pace. It's like it wasn't even close. I'm like, well, what the heck, And I think that's what's challenging about that place is you can feel like you have a really good race car underneath you, and it can be really bad at the same time. So we just kept working at it, and over the last few years, we've really overhauled the thing. Every other race, most time we want to start with what we ran, but you try something, you find something, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But for the most part, we've been able to hit on it. And we're looking forward to it, like I said.
In Norway, it's such a fun place with very passionate fan base. What's it been like for you up there? Because I know it's kind of one of those places, and I love the fans in Norway, but after a little while, if you start winning there a little too much, the fans want to see someone else win. Are you starting to experience that yet?
Thankfully, not yet. I'm sure if we keep on our pace that we are, I'm sure that some of that will play in, but we've always tried to be as respectful as what we can. It's always an honor to pull into any racetrack that we go to. So I try to conduct myself the best that we can, and my team does the same along with my sponsors. And we try to do it the right way. If we get beat wheel to wheel, that's fine by me. We just got to be better at the end of the day, and I got to be better. But if we beat them wheel to wheel and I ran people clean and people are booing, that doesn't bother me either. So I got nothing to hang my head on when it comes to that. But I've never been a dirty racer. Like I said, I always try to do things the right way. So I'm sure that we'll continue at Norway with their fan base.
Yeah, and what you mentioned there about your driving style and your reputation, I think it is really something I've noticed about you since you were racing in the 4-cylinder division or the non-stock 4-cylinder division. When you jumped into that and then eventually worked your way up into the late models and the super late models. Take me through it. Where did you start? Because that's where I remember you. I think the Icebreaker back when they first ran it at the Dells a few years ago. Remember seeing you there, and then all of a sudden, boom, here you are in super late models just a few years. Did you expect to move up so fast, or was it just kind of a product of becoming comfortable in the car and deciding that this is where you wanted to go?
Yeah, I think over the years, I started when I was 4 in kitty cats, little snowmobiles, and progressed my way up once I was 6 in the go-karts, and then in the micro sprints on ice. Always ran at our local track right here in Gleason, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth with driving, and kind of had some sponsors approach me and some family friends, and hey, if you want to take it, racing to the next level, you got to get into stock cars. And really didn't have a clue at that point on what we wanted to do, where we wanted to go. We honestly looked into going off-road racing at that time too. That was another option, but not a lot of tracks in the area. You really would have to do some traveling across the country if that was an avenue that we wanted to go. So decided to get into stock cars. So when I was 16, we bought a mini mod. And we ran at State Park Speedway for I think 2 or 3 years. And the first year we used to judge, the races on how fast, we'd start in front because we were one of the slower cars, and how fast we'd get to the back. It was normally in 2 or 3 laps. And, next race, maybe it would be 10 laps, or, so you could tell you were getting better. But that definitely took a lot of learning, but was able to start with a rear wheel drive that I think helped me once I progressed in the limited late models at Wassa. And in my rookie year, we won 6 races there and were able to get the track championship. And then we progressed into super late models in 2016. We just converted the car that we had as a limited late, and then we bought another super. We really just progressed up through the years, but I've been fortunate to always have good sponsors behind me and been able to find that financial support to get good race cars underneath me and good people around me, because that's really what it takes. But just in the super late model world, I think the hard part is finding that fun balance, I guess we'll call it. Said years ago, man, you run the Icebreaker race, and if we'd finished in the top 10, it's like, man, that's a hell of a day, that's a hell of a run, and you're super happy. And there's races where we finish second, and it's like, never been so pissed off in my life, and it's just like sometimes you lose track of that balance, and that's always hard. But when you start having more success like we have been, it's harder and harder to have fun because you just want to win all the time. So that's always a struggle for myself, but I try not to lose track of where we came from and where we want to go at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things where you came from, you mentioned your sponsors, and you guys, you know, much like the two that we talked to already, laundry list of sponsors, which is a great thing. And I think you need to give yourself some credit there because you know, I've talked to Ernie from Agra, and you know, he's told me that's basically a you job there. You go out and you find these people and you get them on board with your race team, which is sort of a lost art. So can you walk us through, you know, the importance of doing that, and how do you find the time to doing that? Because I know, you know, you were a full-time student and now you're working full-time. It can't be an easy thing to do to go out and find enough funding to put together a race program like yours, but how do you get it done?
No, it's definitely not easy. I'm a full-time mechanical project engineer with Ager Industries. They've been a long-time supporter of my racing, good family friends as well. But it's tough. I mean, in the racing world, I think like when you get to the higher levels of NASCAR right now, I mean it's stupid money, and it really doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. You got to bring money, no matter what your story is, to a point. And that's tough. I mean, I could honestly quit my job tomorrow and try to find sponsors full time and still not have enough time. I mean, it's a lot of it's a lot of work and time creating proposals and just finding that person that's willing to give, you know. And you know, luckily, you know, with Ernie, he helps me make some pretty sweet proposals, and we work together and come up with options and color schemes and packages. But we tie all of it in. So I don't just do a lot on the track. We do a lot off the track as well with the Bandolero series that I support, and that we helped develop, as well as, you know, Veterans Affairs, hunger, anything like that. We've done a lot over the years, just to name a few. But it's tough. We do, you know, car outings with the cars at certain sponsors, and it's hard to find the balance of who's willing to give money or not. Like, example, I have sponsors that could care less if it helps their business or not. They just want me to succeed, and they want to support myself and our team. I have some that want it to support, you know, and help their business. So that's always a hard fundamental to prove, in some aspects. And then I have some that, like I said, just want to do it, you know, as a courtesy. But it's funny, you can go to, say, a huge corporation and try to get $500, and that's a joke, you know, like it's a definite no. Or, you know, and it's like, honestly, like $500 today, that doesn't even get you a set of tires. So it's hard, you know, to find that financial support. But then you can go to, you know, someone down the road and just an average guy, and he gives you $5,000 cash just because he wants you to do well, you know. So it's always the people you least expect. And I definitely ask a lot of people and create a lot of options, and you never know until you ask. And there's, you know, companies that I've worked with for, you know, over 10 years in my racing, and there's some that took me, you know, 4 or 5 years to get a yes. So I don't know, I guess I've just stayed aggressive with it, tried to find the balance with work, you know, working on stuff after work. It's just hard because you can't like cold call every single company, because that's what everybody does, you know. And it's like, I don't have time when I'm working, you know, 45, 50 hours a week to do that during work hours. So it's like, you can't go meet with people after work because everything's closed. So I try to find a balance with it, whether you call on lunch or whatever the situation might be. But when I started this, I realized that it wasn't going to be a family funded operation. That was very clear to me from the start. So it was always, the more money that I can find, the better off we're going to be. And if we want to have one race car and run 5 times a year, well, then that's the money I'm going to find. But if we want to, you know, have a operation like we have now and build and have success, well, then you got to find some serious dollars. And thankfully, I've been able to do that over the last few years.
And you know, one of those things that was a bit of a support system for you as well was a quick driver development program that you were in for a couple of years. You know, you had already touched on this a little bit, and one thing that I always thought is that you, out of anyone that I've seen in that program so far, set the standard for the away from the track stuff. The drives that you were doing, the honor flight, the mighty bandos. What went into the thought process on doing all those things as part of the Kowicki program, or was that something that always struck your interest, or was near and dear to you, and you just decided that that was the opportunity to really get it fired up and going?
Over the years, we've always done a lot off the track. When we were able to make the clicky program the first time, we did quite a bit off track. We just didn't have the on track success that we needed to be a serious contender in the first year. We were able to make it again the second year. And in the interview process, the impression that we got was that that was the year that Alan was up. It was like his last year that he was going to be eligible to make it into the Hall of Fame. And that was like the year they wanted to really drive it home. And it was very clear in the interviews to us that off track was going to be a very important factor, like it always is, but almost more than the on track success, for the year that we were in it. So we already had a lot of off track events planned like we do normally, whether we were in the program or not. But with how the interviews went, we felt like we're going to do that times 10. And we did, and we had a better year, on the track that year than we did the year before. And we honestly thought like we had it won. Like, I don't know what else we could have did to win it, other than win a few more races. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, I look now at the success we're having now. It's like we could have the thing won in a half a year, but it's just like timing didn't work out. But that money definitely would have been useful. I feel like I feel like as a team we definitely should have won it. I think there's a lot of other people that do too, but definitely proud to be a part of it. It's definitely helped me gain exposure across the country in that aspect. I've met a lot of good guys and girls over the years from the program, made a lot of friends, and it's something that I'll always have a part of me.
And to that too, you have the Mighty Bandos, and I was looking back at your Facebook page. You have the banquet for them. What does it mean for you to be able to mold young racers, or to provide them with something just beyond what they're out there doing? A little incentive, a series, some extra trophies, or that extra recognition. I mean, these are potentially kids that could be racing against you someday. So, I mean, what does it mean for you to help grow the sport?
Yeah, it's very important for myself, especially. I guess, like I said, I didn't get into the stock car world until I was 16. So I don't want to say I didn't have the opportunities. It's just something I didn't know nothing about, because ice racing is what I did. And I didn't know about any of these, bandoleros, like, what the heck is that type of deal. But it's cool. I was able to, be around it quite a bit over the last few years, just, at local tracks. And the Mighty Bando series, is something we formed when I was in the Clicky program. That was something to really drive home with the Clicky program. I thought it was a great idea. And after the Clicky program, we just, decided to continue doing it, because I feel it's very important to invest in youth racing, because I got into it extremely late. I know 16 isn't that old, but really you look at, when these bandolero drivers, start and how much better, I've watched them get over the years. I think it's important. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of racers nowadays that are retiring, that are getting older. But we have a good young group, I feel like, in bandoleros, but not all, and super lates as well. But you need to keep that crop growing. If I want to race someday when I'm in my 40s and 50s, it's like we got to have people to race against too. But it's just so cool. We throw money at the series for points, and then we do medals every race and trophies, at the end of the year. And it's cool that they come to my race party and fundraiser, but then we do their banquet as well. And it's always cool. They're always so appreciative and happy because they realize that it takes, a team like ours to put on what they do, and they need the support as well. And they're always so appreciative and happy, and it's super cool to see the smiles on all their faces. And they come to the racetrack and they always want to learn about the car, and it's always cool. So I'm definitely seeing the benefit there too. It's cool to teach them.
Yeah, you never know. Someday you might end up like me, be a promoter. Don't do
there
it.
You go. I hope not for a long time. Hopefully I'll be in the driver's seat, but you never know.
There you go. We could always switch for a little bit too. I'll try driving the car, but I don't think you'd want me to, because
mechanic race, Matt. Mechanic race.
Yeah, there we go. You've got the engineering background. We talked to Riley Stenjum about this a couple of weeks ago. working with Toby. Toby seems to find all of these very mechanically inclined teams and drivers, and it obviously is translating to some success. So, can you run me through, your mechanical background and or your engineering background, and how does that translate for you into the stock car program and ultimately a successful program?
Yeah, it started with my dad. I would say he's one of the most, mechanically inclined individuals that you'll meet. And I know every son will say his dad's the best and blah blah blah. But whether it comes to plumbing, electrical, fabricating, you name it, he's able to do it. And that's always something that I've been wanting to learn as much as what I could. So from early age, I was always with him in the shop and learning what I can and can't do, and just trying to absorb as much information as what I possibly could. And I knew from an early age that, engineering, whether it was mechanical or civil or other areas, I definitely wanted to go into engineering, and was able to take some CAD classes in high school. And I really like the design aspect of trying to come up with something new, or doing stress and strength calculations of figuring out how strong something needs to be or why it failed. And that's something that just always caught my eye. So I went to NTC in Wassa and I got my 2-year degree, and then I went also to Michigan Tech to get my 4-year mechanical engineering degree. I graduated in 2019. So like as far as how it helps on the car, there's certain areas that I can look into on how the car works, that I guess I personally look into, of just angles and strength, and how can we get as much pressure on this corner or vice versa. But I think it's more of just like being in engineering as a whole, of being mechanically inclined and being like hands-on, because I've always been that, as a little kid on. And I think that's really the difference, because there's a lot of drivers nowadays that really come to the racetrack and they pay X amount to race, this guy's race car or whoever it is, and they don't understand what makes a car tight or what makes it loose, or there's a ton of in-car adjustments that we make in a race. But I've always been bred, I guess, because I haven't always had Toby over the years, to figure out how can I make this work without someone that knows what's going on. And I pride myself with that. And there's times where Toby's trying to come up with something new, or I'm also working to come up with something new. And at the end of the day, there's times where he'll say, I think too much, and don't worry about it and just drive the car and I'll figure it out. But that's hard when you have a mechanical mind. You're thinking about it as you're turning laps and how things are working and how can you make that next adjustment. And sometimes that helps us out, and sometimes I overanalyze it too. But at the end of the day, I feel like that's an added benefit that I'm able to bring to our team.
So then, with all the experience that you have at Wausau and Golden Sands and all the success you have there, do you find yourself overanalyzing or changing much? Or, a lot of people probably think you could just bring the same car, the same setup each and every week to Wausau and be completely successful. Or the same thing with Golden Sands. It's really not that case, though. I mean, do you find yourself chasing setups a little bit throughout the summer when you go to those tracks week in and week out, or if you go for a special event like a Tundra race, or can you pretty much keep the car where it's at most of the time?
Yes and no. There's certain nights where maybe we'll go in a 2-3 week stretch where we can keep it the same. But a lot of times this year at Plover and State Park Speedway, I mean, we would change drastically from night to night. And a case, I think, of just getting better, looking for that next edge. Sometimes I maybe will be a little too conservative, because man, I think it was really good last week. Like, we sure we want to do this or not screw it up, Well, it's like, then you don't know if that new thing is going to truly be better or not. But then if you change it and it's worse, well, then it's easy to say, oh, I knew we shouldn't change that or whatever. But that's always a balance. I remember this year at Wausau, we started the year and we were pretty good. And we were really thriving at Wausau like midway through the year. And there was one night we unloaded, and I didn't think we were as good as what we needed to be. And we unloaded, and I think we had fast time that night too. And I just didn't feel like the car was racy enough for what I felt. And we had quick time, but at the end of the day, that doesn't always mean everything. It doesn't mean that car is going to last over 60, 70 laps. And we overhauled the car and went back to something that we ran at the beginning of the year that we went away from. So it's like, is it going to work? Is it not? We felt that the track conditions were suitable that night to do that. And we put it on for the heat race, and I felt it was pretty good. And we ended up racing with it. And I felt it was one of the better cars that we had there that year. So that, that's hard. It's like you want to try to stick to the same and be cautious and not change anything. But if you're not changing anything to try to get better, I feel like that's when the competition is going to start to catch up, because they're not just being status quo every week and running 5th place. They're trying to get better as well. And if we're not trying to get better, well, then, like I said, they creep up on us, and then you start losing races, and that doesn't do any good.
And you get the opportunity, to have the chance to make those changes and to have the chance to get better quite frequently, racing 2 tracks full time, 2 series full time, some special events as well. I look at you and I think of, the way racers used to do things back in the 80s and the 90s, right? Where they were just chasing and racing every opportunity they had. Is that the kind of race car driver you picture yourself to be, that you want to be? You take a look back, like your Larry Degens, your Dick Trickles, your Joe Shears, and all these people that would race all these big events, these weekly events, and be successful. Because I know there's that huge rich history in Central Wisconsin, and fans are always looking for that next guy. Is that something that you strive to be?
I think it's always huge to, follow the footsteps of the previous, racers that have really paved the path to what racing is today. All those racers were well before my time that I got into stock cars, but you hear about them. We've been lucky enough to, win a few memorial races over the years, and that's been special to myself. But as many races as what we run, I think last year we raced, not including speed weeks, I think we raced 51 times last year, and that was like 20 more than like the 2nd place guy in the country for amount of races. And thankfully, we're able to have good race cars, and I have good sponsors that were able to fund that. And I have some people approach me that, they think running that many races hurts me because maybe we're not preparing the cars as much as what we should be. And with 3 race cars, it's tough to put in the work, but put in a lot of late nights, and every night and on the weekend, and we do what we can. But at the end of the day, I feel like that's what makes us better, is always being at the racetrack. I feel like if you're a person that only runs 10 times a year, you don't have that time to test. And it's not like you always need to rent a track, but you can test on race day. And I really truly believe that's what makes us better. And we'll continue to run as many races as what we can, unless our cars start falling apart or something stupid like that. But we prep them as best as what we can, and they don't go to the racetrack until I feel like they're 100% ready to go. But like I said, at the end of the day, I truly feel like that's what's made us better over the last few years. It's just seat time. I mean, it's just consistency, throttle control, braking pressure, trailer braking, however you want to control all that. There's so much that goes into it, and you're not going to get that aspect until you're in the seat. I've seen a lot of race car drivers say, oh, well, that's easy to do, or you can do that. And then you go out and watch them. And it's like, okay, well, it's not that easy. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and talk smart, but we try to get out there and learn as much as what we can.
A lot of people on Facebook like to sit back and talk smart. We know that, but let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. So with the seat time, obviously the improvement in the Tundra series itself has been extremely evident. We've seen it from, your rookie season up to 2020, now here to 2021, where you had another season where maybe just the bad luck kind of bitch in the backside a bit. But for 2022, I know you and your team are very, very focused on winning championships again. And I know you've got that Tundra one circled and you got it started and you really, really want it. So what kinds of things are you thinking about for the 2022 season? Is there anything different prep wise or anything mentality wise that you plan on changing going into the events, or are you just going to approach it the same way and, hope that the bad luck stays away?
Yeah, I think this is I don't know, Matt, it's probably what, our 4th or 5th year probably in Tundra. And I think, the last 2 years for sure, I feel like we've been a championship contender. The other years, you would have needed a little bit of luck. And last year, specifically, I think, if we would have, ran at Kakana, like I think we would have, we were going for Grant on the lead there when we broke. So I think we would have won that race or second at least. And then we never got to run Wassa. So let's just say we placed in the top 3 at Kakana and run at Wassa like I think we should have. I think we would have been right in the thing. But as far as preparation for this year, I mean, we're really not doing anything different. Just going through all our cars, refreshing what we need to, and so on, and make sure that they're the best they can be when they unload at the racetrack. And we'll go through our race day preparations like normal, and on day, race preparation as well, and make the best adjustments that we can in practice and qualify. And kind of at that point, we made our bet in the race, and whatever happens. I guess we always try to believe that you can't hope and pray what's going to happen. You just gotta, prep as best as what you can, and everything will play out like it's supposed to. You can't help bad luck. So it's like, stuff that happens on the track or mechanical failures. It's like the mechanical failures that we've had. It's not like a part is falling off. It's like it's a part literally breaking or something that's truly out of your control. So at that aspect, there's nothing you can do. So you just gotta hope for the best, a little bit, and then, like I said, we're just gonna keep preparing like we always do, and bring fast race cars to the racetrack. Usually is a good start.
So I know to get those fast race tracks to the track, a lot of preparation, a lot of time away from the track. We talked about the sponsorship. When you're not racing, not working on cars, and not chasing sponsors, what is Justin Mondeik doing for fun?
Working on race cars, to be honest with you. I get a lot of enjoyment working in the shop, and spending time with my dad and others that are able to come out. But spend a lot of time, with my girlfriend, of course. And, I do quite a bit of hunting in the fall. I'm a big hunter. I love the rifle hunt and bow hunt and do all that. So once we hit, July, August, I have quite the trail camera collection that I put out. So that keeps me pretty busy. Like I said, I'm big into hunting, snowmobiling a little bit. It's a little bit challenging in the wintertime with, going to Florida kind of cuts into winter activities, because instead of prepping 2 or 3 cars for April, you're trying to get them ready for February. So that really backlogs into Thanksgiving and Christmas. But really, spending time with family, I'm able to have some pretty good friends and a couple other friends that race. So just doing stuff with them and, family and friends, and snowmobiling and hunting. That's what I do, I guess, in my spare time. So I always say I have 2 full-time jobs. I have my day job as a mechanical engineer, and then I have my second job as a race car driver and team organizer, we'll call it.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of in that boat in the racing world, aren't we? There's the off season, and then there's the actual season where we do the racing part, but the off season is not really an off season ever. I know I'd get my butt kicked too if I miss snowmobile season. What kind of sled do you run?
Polaris Rush. I have.
Those are fun, man. I like those. Before I let you go, I know you have a party coming up this week. I want to give a little shout out. Tell the folks what's going on.
Yeah, I have race appreciation party this weekend at the Gleason Bowling Center in Gleason. We always do a appreciation, I guess, for friends and sponsors and crew. Something that we did the last, I would say, 5 years, really, since we got into the super late model world. It's just always been a give back for the people that have supported us. Like I said, I invite who's needed, I guess, for that matter, people that have supported me. So like this time it'll be a kickoff, for this year, but as well as a celebration from last year. And then, like I said, we tie in with the Bandolero series for their banquet. So it's pretty cool. We've always been able to give back, and the last 2 years, or this will be the second year, we turned it into a fundraiser as well. So we still give back like we do for the event, but if people are willing to donate and fundraise for the year, then that's great too. And if not, then like I said, it's just a total give back and appreciation for what they do to help us get to what we're doing.
Very cool. Sounds like a fun time. So enjoy that, and we will see you soon. Racing season here in Wisconsin is right around the corner.
Yep. hopefully we can have some happy fan get some Tundra tickets. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. All right, folks, that's Justin Mondeik, going to be gunning for the 2022 Tundra Super Late Model Series Championship. Third year in a row that we see him as a pretty major title contender. It all starts Great Lakes testing May 14th, Wisconsin International Raceway. We'll see you there.